start upgrading some of the computers around my home. I have quite a few computers I use myself. One Lenovo for my day-to-day business. A second Lenovo that is a backup. So in case anything happens with the first Lenovo, I have an exact duplicate backup system ready to go. It's kind of overdoing it in some people's eyes, but I've actually had use of it in the past, so I feel like it makes up for everything. And I also do duplicates of all the content that I edit on each computer. That way I can move from one to the other very easy, and it serves as a backup. Today what we're going to do is we're going to turn a Lenovo S30 into a video editor. I want to be able to edit videos a little better and a little faster and not using my main machine. So I can just put this thing to work on the side and let it do its thing. The Lenovo S30 comes with a pretty good power supply, I believe 610 watts. I did run into one issue, is we're going to put in this 3060, and the 3060 needs an 8 pin. The Lenovo S30 that I have has two 6 pins. So we're going to use an adapter, take the two 6 pins, create an 8 pin. So that's what we're going to do for the video card. It comes with 12 gigabytes of RAM. That's really not very good for a video editing machine today. We're going to upgrade it. We're going to put in 64 gigabytes of RAM. It has 8 slots, so we were able to source 8 gigabyte memory modules, and we're going to upgrade it with that. As far as hard drives, this thing actually comes with a pretty decent SSD, a 512 gigabyte Samsung Pro. So that we're just going to go with that. That's plenty good. As far as extra SSD storage, and also kind of like a cache or something, and the ability to load programs on a separate SSD, which can help at least marginally improve speed. We're going to leave the operating system on one, and we're going to use the one of the extra X16 PCI slots. We're going to put an NVMe drive in there. So that'll give us a little extra storage, and we're going to install all of our programs there. There are no hard drives in here, just the SSDs. So we've got some 4 gigabytes and 6 gigabytes. Not really sure which one. I don't need massive storage because I do have a pretty decent server here, and so everything moves pretty fast over to the server. It's one of those deals where I don't need massive speed to do it. I just use a gigabit network, and I just schedule all the files to move there using a backup utility, and I don't have to, like, every time I want to do it, I just have to wait for something. It just runs every night and backs everything up to the server, so I have backups there. Okay, so we're going to get started. This 2060 is for next video. I have a second S30. I want to build kind of a mid-level gaming machine. It's not really meant for your top titles. What it's meant for is the ability to play mid titles, and my kids play, I believe they call Genshin Impact. It doesn't. I've done a little bit of research. It doesn't need a very great GPU, so what we have here is going to be more than enough to make them happy with that. If they want to do streaming, It's a 6-core 12 with hyper-threading, so have 12 cores total for their games. I mean, for their streaming, it should be enough. It's in benchmarks, it's a little bit better than i7-6700. So it should be fine for what we're trying to do. Not trying to build a high-end gaming machine, trying to build something that is on par, a little better than what is required for my daughters to play Genshin Impact and some other like Roblox, Minecraft, very simple games. So stay tuned. You'll see that build next. Alright, first thing we're going to do is we're going to open this up. I'm going to switch on my other camera over here. I use a Samsung Galaxy Pro to let you look down inside of the case, so you can see what we were starting with. So what we were starting with, you'll see, is a pretty open wide open system. It has 3 cradles for hard drives. It has an extra bay here, 3.5-inch bay here. You can access more easily from the front. We're going to be moving the SSD here, and then we're going to drop in 1, 2, 3, they're even numbered, into the cradles here, and that's going to give us, depending on which drives I use, about 12 to 20 gigabytes, or let's see, 12 to 16 gigabytes. So we're going to have 12 to 16 gigabytes, which will be more than enough. I'm just getting into the videos here. I do some videos using Canon M50, obviously on my phone, and those I always send directly to the server. But since we're going to be doing some videos like this one, I want to be able to have at least a little bit of space. Then later we'll move them to the server for storage. Okay, also I mentioned the 12 gigabytes of RAM you can see here, and let's go ahead and get started. So the old video card is a Quadro K2000D. At one time it was probably a decent card. Anyone's familiar with the Quadros, they can be quite expensive for the newer ones. This one I believe is a 2 gigabyte card, and it's not going to be suitable for what we're trying to do. So out with that. I'll let you have a look at that. So there it is. We got a Quadro K2000D. So we'll probably use that in one of my older computers, or we'll just save it as a spare, possibly even sell it. So out with that. We're going to have to get rid of all this memory. That memory is going to come in handy, because if we do future builds, we have 2 of these systems, and the 2 systems each have this memory in them. So 4 gigabyte modules, that gives us 12 here, and if we take them out of the other system, we got a total of 24 gigabytes. 2 more modules, and we've got another system with 32 gigabytes. So 32 gigabytes, not too bad. So let's get our parts for this system. I believe this is it. So we got some SATA cables. I've already put this together, and I'll show you what it looks like. So this is a PCI Express. It fits a NVMe M2. Let's see if we got our other one. I'll let you see what that looks like. So this is the one going into the next server, for the PC, the gaming system. So we got this. We got a heat sink, and we're going to be putting in a crucial 500 gigabyte NVMe. So that's what that looks like. As long as you got a good slot, a good PCI Express slot to put it in, you're good as gold. Those things run really fast. In my testing, when I tested a good SSD, I would get between 550 megabytes a second. When I tested an NVMe using a PCI Express slot, I was getting over 1,000. So definitely runs faster, but you really need a good slot to put it in. Otherwise, might be as good, but as good is probably not gonna make it worth doing unless you need extra storage space. It's a good place to drop a extra SSD. So we're going to drop 8 of these in. So the S20, as you can see, has 8 banks here. So they are triple channel, if I understand right. So probably matters how you put them in, unless, as in our case, we're using all matching modules, and we're going to fill all 8 banks. So that's going to give us 64 gigabytes. I mean, years ago, 64 gigabytes, we would have been like, whoa, that's an insane machine. Who has 64 gigabytes in a computer? And why would you? But now, for a video editing machine, it's not crazy at all. It's kind of where we are right now. Is 32 to 64 gigabytes is pretty standard. And I'm not talking about, people who are doing a lot of heavy duty 4K stuff. They're probably up, 256. But, for someone that's doing, semi-pro like me, hobbyist kind of stuff, then you're probably going to be pretty good with 64 gigabytes. I'm sure you are. So there we go. We got the memory in there. Now we're going to find a spot for this. And we're going to drop it in this last express slot over here. Because just going to give the graphics card as much room as possible to breathe. It's probably not going to be working all that hard. you can't really have too much space for that stuff. You want to, I like to let stuff breathe. Don't try to crowd it too much if I have room. So there we go. And just mention this before I go any further is whenever I build a new system like this, there's a couple of things I always like to do. If I'm going to keep the graphics card, I like to take the graphics card apart and apply new thermal paste. Also, the CPU. This is an older system, and so I always like to take the cooler off and just put a new coat of CPU or thermal grease on there. Another thing I like to do is change the CMOS battery. It's just some good things to do before you start your build. And so I've already done all of those things. And I also did a very thorough cleaning. I cleaned the cooler, I cleaned the power supply, 80 plus gold, very good power supply, 610 watts. So I cleaned everything out really good. I'm not showing that because, yeah, it's kind of boring. You can find lots of videos on it if you need a little help there, but it's pretty simple just to clean it out. The only thing I would say is never ever spray these fans with air and just let them spin freely. That's really bad. You will ruin your fans. So I use a pen or my finger if that's easier, or on some of the other areas I use a little plastic stick and I just hold the fan. That way, yeah, you're going to be glad that you didn't run your fan. So we haven't even unboxed this yet. We still got a seal on there. So we're gonna have a look at this, and probably should have just went ahead and unboxed it to save some time. We get an extra unboxing. So my understanding is these have nothing in here except for the card. There's no connectors, anything like that in here. I watched an unboxing on YouTube, and yeah, they said there's nothing else in there. So we went on Amazon and picked up the connector, and there we have it. Still got all of the wrap on there. Feels kind of satisfying to pull it off. Do try to get it all off. So there we go. So really nice, solidly built card, very compact, and that's kind of what we wanted. I don't need something that's like overpowered. This thing has 12 gigabytes, and that's what we were going for. We needed something like that. Most programs don't use, most video editing programs don't really even use the GP hardly at all, if at all. There are some exceptions. I believe they say DaVinci Resolve, and also Video Studio Pro now allows you to set your GPU to help you edit your video. So we're using Video Studio Pro here. I like it. It's simple, it's easy to use, it's powerful enough for what I do. I also use Paint Shop Pro, so it's kind of right there in the family. Price is good. So this is going to help Video Studio Pro run even better. Just be careful. Make sure you get her all lined up nicely there. And there you go. Nice, compact, solid little card. Should do everything that we need it to do. All right. Now, the power connector for that. We got one off of Amazon, and I seem to have misplaced that. But we're going to take these two 6-pins and we're going to use this and take the two 6-pin female ends. We're going to plug her in here. And now we have one 8-pin. So one thing, other thing I would like to mention, and I've heard a lot about this, I've heard a lot of different remarks. You really want to make sure that the card you're using is getting enough power. Now, I did my research. This configuration can power about 225 watts. This card is only about I believe 170 or so. So we can power it with this. We're going to get enough power from here, and that's coming directly from the people at Lenovo. So I'm confident that this will work. They actually were doing a single 6-pin, and then they made some changes to the configuration by the time this machine was produced, because people were complaining and they were saying, you know, we need more power. So they provided a path, and that path is combining these cards, or combining these 6 pins to produce enough power to power a single GPU. So there we go. So we got the GPU in, we got the memory in, we dropped in an NVMe. We're going to drop in 3 hard drives. Got all our SATAs, everything. So there is one more thing, and I should have remembered what it's called, but there's a deal here with these Lenovo S30s. It has 3 little blue, let's see if you can see them. You can. So it has 3 little blue SATA ports here, and they just look like any other SATA ports, and you wouldn't think anything about them except that they work, but they don't. So you have to download a file. So look it up. You have to download a file, and I found it through a Google search. Once you run that file, then the driver will open up these ports for you. So yeah, make sure you do that. There are a total of 7 SATA ports, which is pretty good. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to get 7 SATA drives in here. I don't know where you would put them. But with the SSD and 1, 2, 3 hard drives and the DVD, we're already at 5. So unless you open up those other ports with the driver, then yeah, you got a problem. And I also have a 5 1/4 bay here, so it's easy to put an adapter in there and get one more drive. So we're going to just do 3 for now, but I always add a lot of drives when I have the opportunity. So it's very possible in the future that we'll expand it and just add that next drive. So now we're up to 6 drives. So we're basically, about to max out those 7 ports. So I would definitely recommend installing the driver to open those up. And like I said, just do a search on Google, Bing, whatever, and you'll find it, and you can take care of that little issue. If you're not going to use more ports, don't do it, because these blue ones, my understanding is they're the equivalent of a SATA 1. So if you're just using them for storage, it's not a big deal. But any drives that you need to really run a little faster, then like if you're saving videos there and stuff, I would definitely plug those drives into the other ports. Don't plug them in the blue ones. Might not work very good. Oh, that's about it for today. I'm not going to bore you with installing the drives. There's plenty of videos for that, and I'll probably show you some more details on some of the other builds that I do. I may show how this works to install the drives, but it's pretty easy. You use the SATA cables, you plug them in, and you got it. One more thing I didn't mention. I've never had one of these really get hot, but I've also never had so much memory and everything in one. So I am going to add one more fan to the front. So I'm going to add a 90mm case fan here in the front to kind of push the air through. And it has a fan in the back, and it has a PSU fan. But those are the only 2 fans in one of these systems. And as I said, I've used them for years. I used S20s for years. They run really cool. They're very good systems, but lately I've been buying some Arctic 90mm because they're pretty quiet and very good price. So I would highly recommend the Arctic fan for having a nice quiet fan. So put that up here and got a little bit more airflow. Alright, and that's it for today. Thanks for stopping by. Like us, subscribe to the channel. We're going to be doing a lot more of these builds. I'm going to be doing a build for the gaming PC with the RTX 2060 that I showed you. And I'm also going to be upgrading some of my older computers and the computers that my wife and daughters use. So stay tuned for some of those. Nothing special going on with them, but I'm going to be installing some 1050 Ti's and some 1060s, depending on the system and what I can get in them. I'm just trying to max them out to the best I can do for a reasonable price. So they're running older i7s and either 1060s or 1050s, and because of the games that they're playing, then those GPUs, that they're plenty for the games that they're playing. So we're just trying to get them up to a playable level. Before, when they were playing Roblox, we didn't really need any decent GPU. I had them running very old GPUs because, you know, for the last several years. It's been really hard to get one and very expensive, but I've been able to get the prices are down, so I've been able to get some that will definitely upgrade their systems to a more playable. Again, subscribe, like it, follow, check out some of our other videos, and have a great day.